Hello students. Based on some of the interactions that I have had with some of you on a one-on-one basis, I decided to do this video, this very short video, to clarify some of the concerns that you all have. So let's get started. This is basically what you need to do regarding the upcoming assignment, which deals with your methodology. So you have to begin with an introduction. You have your research design. You have your settings and participants, data sources and instruments, and so on. So we're going to follow this guide, and this is what you all would need to complete for the next assignment that is due. So let's get started with your introduction, 3.1. So ideally in this section, what you need to do is basically reinstate the purpose of your research, all right? So again, what your research plans to cover, what is the aim of your research, and then given this, you now need to state why a methodology section is included in this proposal. So what is the purpose of this methodology section? Why is a research methodology important? How will it add value to answering your question, to completing your research? And then at the end, give a proposed outline of what this section would look like. In other words, you're going to say at the end, this section will include research design, explanation of the participants, the questionnaires and data sources, things like that. So you're giving a structure of the actual section, and you end with that. So it's just basically an introduction. You're introducing the research methodology section. All right, so it's 3.0. So now we actually are getting into the details of what you need to do. So the first thing is to decide on which research design you're going to use. Now you all would have learned this when you all did MGMT 2063. Unit 1 actually has information on the types of research designs. So you can please have a read to refresh your memory. But at any rate, your research design is really, it tells you basically the purpose of this research, how it's going to be undone. Is it that your research is going to be exploratory? Are you exploring something? Is it that your research, the aim of it is to describe a phenomena? Or is it that you're going to look at a causation, a cause and effect scenario? So you have three main research designs, and you have to figure out which research design your research would fall into. I mean, look at your research question. Look at your central research question that you have developed earlier in this course, so that it will help you in determining which one. But just for some added notes, the exploratory research is really one where, there's not much information that already exists on the topic. And basically one will, embark in this type of research in order to just gain background information on the topic and also to clarify problems, or basically to determine future areas of for research. So it's a research area that is more exploratory. It's information is not necessarily, the ambiguity is very high in this design. Reducing the ambiguity further gives us descriptive design. And descriptive research or descriptive research designs includes finding out about something more. So your intention here is to really to describe. So if your research topic looks at it, looking at to explain, maybe profiling the situation, profiling individuals, it looks to seeks to answer questions, maybe what about something, or when does something happen, or where. All right, it's not that deep, it's not that how to say, definitive. All right, so there is some ambiguity in that type of research, meaning that you cannot really strongly connect variables and correlations and whatnot. The intention here is to describe. So this research relies on data that already exists in some form, although the information could be a little patchy. All right, sometimes you would use like secondary data and qualitative research data as well for descriptive. And lastly, you have causal. I don't want to spend too much time here because you all would have done this. And a quick Google search would help you in refreshing your mind as well. All right, but causation is pretty much when your research question deals with looking at the impact of one variable on another. All right, to sum it up, it looks at relationships. And this research is one that is very, you're looking to really conclude something at the end, whereas the others, there may not be a definitive conclusion about what it is that you are looking at. So there are some gray areas still yet to be determined. Now, causal research really is when, that's like high level. You're doing experiments, you're testing hypotheses, you're using advanced statistical tools to test whatever it is you're testing. Descriptive research, usually, I'm just telling you about the trend. You're reporting data using frequencies and charts, bar charts, bar graphs, percentages, frequency, describing the data. Exploratory is where you try to, usually it's like interviews and whatnot that you may sum up based on in-depth interviews with, let's say, experts or what have you. So really, just to get their views. I'm not saying that this is the prescription, but I'm just saying that usually this is what it would look like, just to help you identify the area. Okay, let us move on because I just have 15 minutes with this tape recorder that I'm using. Okay, now that you have figured out your research design, now you need to figure out your research process. Okay, so if I'm doing, let's say, causal research, in order for me to conduct that type of research, I have three choices. I could do qualitative, where I'm doing only collecting data in such a way where it's not using any numbers. Quantitative, where I will be using statistics and numbers, or a mixed method research where I'm using both qualitative and quantitative. Whatever it is that you choose, please guys, justify it. If you're using quantitative, say why this method is a great option in helping you to answer your research questions or in helping you to clarify this research. Always say why. Always give the merit for everything that you're doing. The next part is your setting and participants. So the setting could be things like, okay, so which country you're studying, which organization, then within the organization, which department, all right, really break it down and then explain why. More importantly, justify the participants. So who would you be really collecting data from? All right, who are these? So if it's within an organization, are you collecting it from employees or managers or customers? All right, or if it's a general public, who exactly in the general public? Is it students? Is it taxi drivers? Really who? And tell us exactly, get into it. So if you're saying employees within an organization, is it administrative staff you're looking at? Is it junior staff? Get into who the ideal participants are. Tell us how these people are best suited to give information that is closely related to what it is you're trying to find out. Your data sources. So you want to get into, okay, so now that we know who we're getting the data from, all right, what about the kind of data we want to collect from them, right? Are we going to just use primary data? Or are we going to use secondary data, which is company documents or census reports or what have you? Or are you going to use a hybrid approach where you're using primary data, that is, you're going out there and collecting information firsthand, and you're using secondary data, let's say you gathered stuff from the companies or the governmental organizations or what have you. All right, so please state the source. Now, if it is that you're using primary data, usually primary data collection techniques includes things like questionnaires, interviews, focus groups, and observation. While I would like to say that focus groups are more advanced and observation is difficult to report, questionnaires and interviews are the somewhat most popular methods for primary data collection. Please justify, explain. Say, okay, so if this is the questionnaire, give us details about your questionnaire, your instrument. How many questions would you... Well, actually, I'm going to talk about that in the next slide. So give details about that. How many questions you will ask? What type of questions will be asked? How were those questions related to being able to complete this research? Describe the questionnaire. Look at it. How the questions would be structured. Please just, if it's an interview, tell us about your interview brief. Now, ideally, we would like you to complete or to finish an interview brief or a questionnaire that is attached to your proposal at the end so that you can get feedback. So please start to work on the design of your questionnaire as well. You may not be able to complete the questionnaire for this assignment, but definitely for the actual proposal. All right? Then tell us now 3.4 your data collection techniques. So now that we know exactly the instruments that you plan to use, but how you're going to administer those instruments. Is it via telephone? Is it through SurveyMonkey? Tell us how, and again, give us the reasons why you are using those procedures. Get into those procedures. How the data will be stored, how it will be processed. Then tell us now how you're going to sample. If it is that you're doing a full population where you're doing everybody, let's say it's a small company and you just have 15 employees and you're doing all, again, say it's a full population approach. However, if you have to take a sample because there are so many persons that you're unable to survey everyone, that is if you're using primary data, then please tell us which sampling method you will use, whether if it's snowballing, cluster, right? Simple random. Tell us why you use that method. Also, give us your justification for your sample size. How many persons are you going to you have decided for your sample? All right. And then when you're finished with those areas, of course, you have your pretest or your pilot study. So if for those of you who are able to administer, you can. If not, just tell us about how you plan to administer this for now. All right, how you plan to do a pretest, how you plan to do a pilot study. If there are any key terms, you define them. And then lastly, 3.9, tell us how you plan to analyze the data. So this is just your plan. All right, are you going to use charts, tables, pie charts, frequencies? Are you going to use any advanced statistical methods like correlation analysis or regression? Is up to you. All right, not mandatory, but you have to decide. If for those of you who are doing hypothesis testing, you will have to use some sort of advanced statistical methods. If not, and you're doing more of a descriptive research, percentages, frequencies, bar charts, and whatnot, mean, median, mode, they are fine. So tell us how you plan to report that data. Ethical considerations, do let us know how you plan to ensure that the participants are protected, that there's confidentiality, that you're gonna get consent via written consent. All those forms that we ask you all to send out to the companies, that you get written consent. Do tell us that that participants will be briefed. All right, tell us your methods to ensure that the ethical guidelines, do tell us about the ethical guidelines maintaining the research, and then you conclude and make that final. So if you have any questions, feel free to send me a WhatsApp or send me an email or message me in the forum. Okay, guys? I thank you. Bye-bye.